I'm going to have a go at fabricating a Kawasaki kickstand from scratch using scrap materials. This is a KDX200 kickstand. It's off a 1986 KDX200. The KDX200 that we're trying to restore doesn't have one. I figured I could fabricate one from scratch using this as an example of how to go about it. Need to find a bit of 6 or 8mm material to make the bracket. I think they're M12 bolts that hold it onto the frame. Don't know where I'm going to get a spring from, and I'm going to size up these pieces of tube and work out how I can crush the end of the smaller piece to make a foot. It's got a couple of little spring towers on it and a bolt that doesn't look original, but we'll work that one out when we come to it. So first job is to find some suitable material from my scrap pile. I made a list of the materials I need for this kickstand. The actual hinge bracket, the upper piece of tube, the lower piece of tube, material for a clevis, an actual hinge bolt, and some spring towers. So let's have a look here. I needed 8mm thick material for the hinge bracket, I'm calling it. This piece of angle iron is 8mm thick. It's 50mm wide this way, which is what's needed, so I'd have to be cutting the flange off. I only need about 90mm of it. I need to cut the flange off about 90mm of this, and then I've got a piece of 8mm by 2-inch or 51mm wide material for the hinge bracket. The upper tube needs to be 22mm or whatever that is, 7/8, 150mm long or 6 inches and about 1.6. Well, that's exactly what that piece of tube is. It's 22mm. The lower tube slides up inside it, needs to be about 19mm or 3/4. Those two fit together like that. That's the 22 there and the 19 there, and you can tell from the join there that it is only 1.6 or 1/16 wall thickness. The clevis material, 5mm thick, needed a piece 25mm wide and 80mm long. I found this piece of rolled hollow section, measured across there. It's 5mm thick wall thickness. I can effectively use one of these bends, and I need to cut and fold down the flanges on it are 30mm wide, so I could cut here and get 30mm to the bend or 20mm wide, and then 30mm flange on the other side, so only needs to be a 25mm thick piece off a piece of tube like this. And I've got some heavy duty bending to do. I've got some heavy duty bending to do in that 8mm material just to give that offset there. But the clevis on this side, U-shape. Next piece I found in the scrap was a hinge bolt. The one currently on this stand doesn't necessarily look an original, but it could be. It's an M10 fine thread with a nylock nut, about 40mm long. That's sort of exactly what I've found there. New nylock nut, M10. Needs a bit of shoulder exposed here. You line that up there. This shoulder really isn't quite long enough for the job, but it gets halfway across the pedal. I found a longer M10 fine bolt, but the shoulder's too long on that one. Might keep looking, but otherwise I've got I think a suitable bolt for the hinge bolt. The little spring towers here and here, the largest diameter of the head of that thing is about 13mm, so just a little bit of rod turned down will copy those two spring towers. Now that's all the components except the spring. I think I'll take some better measurements of the spring when I take that apart to trace the hinge bracket. But yeah, I didn't do too badly, just out of stock materials that I've had laying around the shed. In part 2 we'll start cutting some of these parts out, so get out to your shed and have some fun.